Can you give me an explanation of exactly what a clinical trial is?
A clinical trial is research. It's clinical research, meaning it involves patients. And clinical trials can take different phases, where you take this new agent that seems to be working and you challenge it against the old standard agent that people are using. So it's a randomized trial that neither the patient nor the doctor choose which treatment you're getting. It's a randomized, it's a flip of the coin, and the allocation of the treatment, or the old treatment versus the new treatment, is done at random. That's how these trials evolve. And it's as a result of these trials that we advance the treatments, the science. And what we're doing today in lung cancer is, and the way we approach lung cancer at different stages, is the results of many trials that have been done over the years. Many individuals have participated in these trials, and we've evolved and advanced, and that's how we advance things.
What are the risks and benefits for participating in a clinical trial?
Well, the risks are that if we are challenging, if we are asking a question with a new treatment that's not been, where we don't have a lot of experience with, that we may discover that that particular treatment is hard and dangerous. We may discover that, despite all the precautions that we take before we come to this phase 3 trial. That is the main risk. The benefits, I think, however, outweigh the risks, and that's been shown over and over again. There's no doubt that individuals that are on trials, because there's so many research nurses and research staff involved in the care of these patients, they're really taken care of in general better than patients who are not on trial. It's not intentional, it just happens. They're on trial, everything is tight, and there's a lot of people involved in monitoring these patients. The next benefit is really, it's altruistic. It's a person helping out, advancing the science, and probably advancing it for others, not really for them. That's how these are the benefits of these trials.
So how do you explain and address the concerns that a patient might have about this possibility that they're getting a placebo?
Well, the way I explain it, and I usually pull out a chart and I draw. And, I tell them that this is the standard of care, which it does not involve this new drug. So if they draw the placebo, they're getting the standard of care. That's it. And if they draw this new drug, then they may be getting something that's going to improve their odds. Now, if they don't want to get the placebo and they want to get this drug, it's not available. At that time, those agents are not available, usually, outside of a trial setting. So I tell them, listen, standard of care is no more treatment. That means placebo, go home. If you want a chance of getting this new drug, this new compound, or this new treatment, the only way you can access it is a 50-50 chance of getting it if you go on this trial. So it's a long discussion. It's probably the longest discussion that we have when we talk about going on trial is this notion of not getting the new treatment. Because when you tell them about what's led to this trial, is there's usually some excitement about this new treatment maybe having an impact on things. And now suddenly their eyes open and they want that new treatment. And then you say, whoa, it's not the way it works. It's a 50-50, or depending on the randomization scheme, maybe a 2-to-1 scheme, but there's not guaranteed they're going to get this new treatment. Long discussion, and often an issue for those patients.
So what do you do to decide which treatment approach would be best for the patient?
Well, a very simple answer to that is basically I treat all my patients like if they were my mom or my dad. That's very simple, but it's true, and a lot of us work that way. But in general, if I see someone who's a potential candidate for a trial, and I'm very involved in this trial world, it's because I believe that those trials are really advantageous for my patients. And if I see someone who's a candidate, that's usually, in my opinion, the best option. Now, there are individuals who don't have the mental frame to go on a trial, or who cannot go on a trial because they're general health is not good enough and so on, well, that's fine. But in general, I approach them all like, if this was mom or this was dad, what would I do? And that usually works quite well.
From where you're sitting as the physician, what advice would you give to a patient who's trying to make the decision of whether or not to be part of a trial?
What I tell them is that they are fortunate, and this is something that you've already mentioned, that they are fortunate to be eligible to participate in this trial, that not every patient that we see is a candidate for trials that we have. If I saw a trial and I didn't like the way it was designed, I would not offer that to my patients, and neither would the other investigators. In the 70s, lung cancer, most patients after surgery, they all went for radiation because there was a belief that it made a difference. It's not until we had studies that were run where half of the patients got radiation, the other half did not, that we realized that most patients after surgery don't need radiation. Well, if these patients had not participated in this particular trial back in the late 70s, early 80s, we'd be radiating a lot of people still out there without any proven benefit.
So what's the importance of a clinical trial?
Well, the easy answer is if we want to be advancing this and getting better results and treating more patients and curing more patients of the disease down the road, we better start asking questions and seeing whether we can do things better. And there's nothing that's going to beat a randomized phase 3 trial in answering those questions. And we are making advances, we are making progress. And it's through the work of these trials that are coming out slowly, but they're coming out one after the other across the world, showing that this new treatment makes a difference. Now, the truth is that for a lot of these trials that are making a difference, there are a lot of other trials where you try and you show that it does not make a difference. But it's important. And you know, if we want to be where we are now and not advance the science, then let's not do any trials. But if we want to do things better, if we want to advance things and cure more patients, the only way we're going to get there is by doing those trials.
What advice would you give to someone who suspects that they may be at high risk for lung cancer?
That's a very good question. Unfortunately, at this stage of the science, there are a lot of hints, but there's no hard, proven data that we should screen individuals who we think are at high risk for lung cancer. But if it was my dad and I felt he was at high risk, I would say, Daddy, you don't pay for a CAT scan if you cannot go on a study. If there is a study out there that exists that is evaluating this modality of screening for lung cancer, participate in that study. But if their study is not available where you are, or if you're not a candidate for this study, just pay for the test. Because I think that it is a very good test. We don't have hard data yet to come out and say, hey, all patients at risk need a CAT scan. But there are a lot of hints that we may be getting there soon. And until then, that's the way I approach things.